Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Simply Wicked Entertainment Events, and welcome to the podcast today on this glorious morning day. Hopefully, for you, I know it's great for me. And the reason why I'm so happy is because I'm actually talking about one of my guilty pleasure movies, and it's going to be great. I love this movie to death. But before I get to the title of the movie, I want to thank everyone who's been following the show for the last 2 years, also watching all these crazy episodes we've been doing. And if you are new to the podcast, you should go and check out some of the previous episodes we've done because we've touched upon a lot of great horror movies over different decades and different time periods and different subgenres. That is the goal of our podcast, is to kind of give you an overview of some of the great horror movies out there that you may or may not have ever heard of or seen. Now, before I get to the film again, I would like to, kind of introduce my guest for today, because we're going to see if she actually enjoys this film as much as I do, which is Sarah Panazzo. I want to thank you for joining us, Panazzo, again.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
And I hope I don't ruin her brain too much by talking about today's film, which is Deep Rising from director Stephen Sommers. I'm pretty sure that you probably did not know that this was one of my favorite movies of all time, guilty pleasure movies.
I didn't. I fully expect it now that I've seen it.
This is one of those films that I could just put in the put on TV and watch over and over and over again and never get bored of it because it's so ridiculously fun. Do not know if the movie's actually filmically good. It's damn near one of the most entertaining films I've ever seen, and I love this movie. So let me just get your opinions on the film first of all.
So the first note I had while watching this was, what the fuck did I just watch? And there were a lot of things I was expecting. Like, I was like, okay, I'm expecting like the Kraken or Cthulhu, and then like Jason and the Argonauts is referenced multiple times. And I was like, okay, maybe it's going to be like that. And then you get to the cruise ship scene where they're introducing the main cruise line, and I was expecting Indiana Jones 2 to top off with a musical number. And I was like, I don't even know, like, my husband told me full camp, just expect campiness and you won't be disappointed. And you're right. It is so much fun, super campy. A lot of the effects, especially like the body gore, are really good. The visual effects are a little iffy, but I mean, it was 98.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. And the way that I put this after I found out who actually made it, as I said, this walked so the mummy could run.
Exactly.
Because it's got the same kind of build, but the mummy just did so much better. But
it has this. Kevin J. O'Connor is fucking brilliant in this movie and in that
yes.
movie as well. But you're right. This is like, okay, I've got a small budget to do my type of film, and then all of a sudden, he's got an amazingly big budget to do The Mummy.
Yes.
And show his real showcase. But this one has got that little indie flavor to it. So it's a lot of fun. And Famke Janssen is just freaking hilarious in this movie with everything she does, which she doesn't get to do very often.
Yes.
I love this cast. You would not expect Treat Williams to be the star of this movie.
No, not at all. Of course, Anthony Held, you look at him and you're like, he's going to be the bad guy. He's always the bad guy. But it took me so long to figure out who Kevin J. O'Connor was. And I was sitting there like, why do I feel like he's like semi like done up with a lot of makeup and he's really funny? And I was like, was he in The Mummy? And I was like, oh my God, yes, he was.
He's in The Mummy and in one of my other favorite films of all time, which is Lord of Illusions, which is another obscure Clive Barker film that most people don't remember. But I love that actor. He's done a lot of great stuff over the years. But yes. I think his sense of humor in this film is absolutely perfect, and he works really well with Stephen Sommers because his humor
100%
in The Mummy is also amazingly great too.
Yes.
But for some of you out there who have never seen this film, essentially it's a really easy plot. A bunch of people who want to hijack and take over a very luxurious cruise line, hire these, I guess you call it freelancers to take them out to the cruise so they can kind of like take over it during in the middle of the water, so they don't have to worry about police or any of that other stuff. Unfortunately for the people on the cruise line and these thieves, the cruise line itself runs amok by an undersea creature, which then just dispatches everyone on the cruise and then picks off the robbers one by one. That's pretty much it.
And it's done in random bouts of everything. Like it starts off with the woman being dragged through the toilet, and then you get all the way to like full like boa constrictor wrapping around people and like full on eating people's bodies. So it goes all over the place with these kills, and it's very
I think it's a testament to the fact that no one knew who Stephen Sommers was when he did this film, because I'm pretty sure that studio probably wouldn't have given him that much.
well.
Yeah.
So he did big Disney films such as Adventures of Huck Finn,
Mhm.
the OG Jungle Book, and Tom and Huck. He was the writer. So this was actually distributed by Disney,
Yes.
which I find even funnier.
Yeah. It was distributed by Disney, one of the smaller subsidiaries of Disney, who they probably just said, "Oh, we're going to give you a small amount of money, and we don't really care if what it does, because you've done so well with these other kid-friendly movies." Because this really does feel like one of those passion projects that
Yes.
companies give the directors who have successful movies, because this definitely feels like that, because this does not seem like the normal type of film that would get made, especially an aquatic horror film, which are notorious
Yeah.
for not being very profitable if you're not
Yeah. But then you see all the other horror movies he's done, which was like a good chunk of The Mummy. He did Van Helsing, and then he did unfortunately G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, and then he did Odd Thomas, which I absolutely loved.
That's a great movie. I just
It
finally saw that last year. I don't know why I missed it. That was such a great movie.
it was such a sleeper thing for if anybody who read the books, it it was on our radar, but it was very under everything. Like it wasn't promoted very well at all.
No, it wasn't. Anton Yelchin hadn't gotten to the point where he was a huge star, and that
Yes.
movie just was not promoted properly, in my opinion. But neither was this one either.
Yeah.
You all can't see Panazzo's look when she says like stuff like that, but yes, she's like, "Oh, surprise!" I have no idea if I cannot fathom if this movie actually did well at the box office or not.
It did not. It had a budget of 45 million, and in the US it made 11.2. So it really was not a great success.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but it's so weird. He went from this to the Mummy, so I'm. So I don't know. I really enjoy Stephen Sommers' films, even though Van Helsing I think was pretty bad. I think
Oh, I loved it. I loved how campy it was. It was a
there's a
lot
lot
of
of
fun.
energy in that.
But yeah, it's the same thing as it's super campy. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but they're fun movies to watch and rewatch.
Well, I loved what the monsters, and he's really good at that, because I love the monsters in Deep Rising. But for that one, I loved what they did with Frankenstein, and I love
Yes.
the Brides of Dracula. I just didn't like what he did with Dracula, and
Yeah,
so
Dracula was a little over the top, but it was okay. It was what it was. But yeah, I mean, I'm there for the rest of the movie. I'm not there for Dracula.
so getting back to Deep Rising, this is a unusual aquatic monster movie, because the creature that's depicted is supposed to be this giant version of a really small creature, that just comes up from the depths and swallows ships whole. I say that now because I love the opening shot with the creature going through all the different ships that are at the bottom of the sea.
Yes.
I remembered that, but as many times as I've seen this film, I kind of forget. I kind of forgot it, because I saw this movie at the theater when it came out.
Well,
I
and so like by I was thinking like, okay, big water monster, and then you've got like it being able to get into every part of the ship, and I was like, what the hell is going on? But then it makes a lot of sense with its like Hydra-esque arms.
the 5 billion Hydra X arms, it just seems to appear out of every little nook and cranny. I don't think that was supposed to make sense whatsoever. I just think they just said, okay, this creature could just get anywhere, and we're not going to make it logically sound because the creature doesn't actually show up until the very, very end. So you're wondering.
I was very confused about the size of the monster then because it's small enough to be like full bodied inside the ship, but I wasn't sure if the ship got bigger or the monster got smaller or what, because it seems like it should be this giant thing with these arms that reach that long.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking too. But you know that the logic in that doesn't need to make sense for this movie. For like three-fourths of it, you suspend your disbelief that you don't know what type of creature this is because it's just a bunch of tentacles with my big giant mouth until they reveal the monster at the very end. And I was both amazed and a little lackluster from the final reveal of the monster, mostly because I thought it was cool, but I also didn't think it was that cool because I was like, oh, I thought it was gonna be bigger.
Yeah, and that's where I come in with like there were some supreme gore and like monster effects when it comes to like makeup, which was brought to you by Rob Bottin, who did like The Fog, The Thing, RoboCop, just a ton of stuff. I think we just talked about him the other day. But he did some great effects with like the bodies that were like decomposed, where they like suck all the water out of the bodies and you're just left with these like bloody chunks. And so it was really gross and it was a lot of fun. Like I said, it's very campy, but then when you get to the actual like special effects for video, it was kind of lackluster where you get like, oh yeah, this was totally on a blue screen. Or you get the infamous jet ski through a cruise ship chase scene.
Yes. Hey, logic doesn't need to make sense. You can have a jet ski through the ocean liner because that's what people can do.
But it was one of those things I was like, I expected a little bit more with the visual effects because of everything else they've done, but I guess at that time they were busy doing other big things because it wasn't as good as everything else that was right around that time.
No, it's also kind of odd because you have these great practical effects in the film as well. Because
Yes.
you start seeing like the room where all the bodies are that the creature has been eating and then displacing in this one room when they accidentally come upon that room, or when they're when they're stuck in the corridor that leads to the elevator, and you see all the bodies everywhere. So whoever did all the practical bodies and all that decomposing and all the blood and guts all over the walls, it was really amazing. But
Yeah.
you go from this kind of campy, humorous horror action vibe to these segments where it's like, oh my god, this is some really disturbing, disgusting imagery.
Yes.
And
And
then
that's why I'm like, good job, Rob Bottin, because you made the effects for this movie really good. And Industrial Light and Magic, like, I understand you were busy, but
they probably were. I kind of, and don't get me wrong, because of the age of the film, the CGI effects don't hold up nearly as well. Unfortunately, that time period, the late '90s, early aughts, we had a lot of everyone experimenting with the visual effects, and some of them don't hold up as well as we would like them to in this day and age.
yes.
So you have to think about that when you go back and you watch a film like this for the very first time. It's to be desired, and if you grew up with the film like I did, it's one of those films where you just had a lot of fun with it, regardless of the fact that
Exactly.
that big giant monster at the end. It's one big CGI slugfest, and it's not nearly as good as it could be in this day and age. So, let's talk about some of the actors in the film. We've just mentioned a lot of the actors in the film. One of the things I did enjoy about the film is the fact that all of the actors seemed to be in line on what type of movie they were making.
100%. Like, all of them knew the assignment and all of them just did a great job. It's, like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's super campy and you know what to expect. Like I said, I felt like it was supposed to be Indiana Jones at one point, and Treat Williams really plays that role. But it's funny because originally they had Harrison Ford as Finnegan. They did. He was going to be Finnegan, and Claire Forlani was going to be Trillian. And I can't remember why they both ducked out. I think they had other better movies to do. But Treat Williams 100% is Indiana Jones in this movie.
Yeah, 'cause the thing about this movie is that whenever I see Treat Williams, I forget that he's done so much other,
Yes.
dramatic stuff and everything else. All I ever see of him is this movie and Dead Heat, which are both of my favorite films. I like those are those are two movies I can watch all the time and never get bored of those films. So
But yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, Anthony Held, he always plays the sleazy bad guy. So I expected it as soon as he came on. Kevin J. O'Connor, funny as always. I love him as Benny in The Mummy. I love him as, I think he's Igor in Van Helsing. But I mean, you've got such a great cast of like B and C list actors filling in for the, I guess, the evil crew who's trying to rob the ship, because you've got like Wes Studi, Jason Fleming, Cliff Curtis. It's like the who's who of a bunch of, I mean, you've got so many people who are just,
now they're
this
big.
is, yeah, they're huge. It's like, this is what you guys were doing ahead of time. And I knew like all of them. So it's like, this is a great movie to watch some of them really get their sea legs.
I forgot Cliff Curtis was in this film, and I love Cliff Curtis now.
Mhm.
And I forgot he was in this film. But Wes Studi, I think I would love to see him in more movies like this. He is so oftenly uh, just doing dramas and these
Yes, he's very
serious films.
typecast in what he ends up doing.
But this film alone, he's a very serious actor in this film, and to the very end, where he tries to shoot Kevin J. O'Connor's character, but runs out of bullets, and you just look at the look on his face is fucking priceless. And of course, he tries to shoot himself, and there's no more bullets.
Yeah, and it's like you moron. I see how bad you are, you evil man.
I still, when I rewatched the movie for the podcast, I was like, "Oh my god, I forgot about this. This movie is still so freaking hilarious and funny." But yeah, I've seen a lot of Wes Studi films, and I wished he would do more. But I think you're right. I think he got typecast,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. It really is, because although any actor could have possibly be cast as his character, um, thankfully they put him in this character, and they didn't have like this is a very wide and diverse cast for this film, which I loved, and this I think that's one of the reasons why I still enjoy it as well. I hate to say this, I don't like seeing films that all represent only one type of culture or one type of people. I like films like this. And this was the '90s too, where people can't say, "Oh, it's a woke film." I hate hearing that term, woke film.
Yes.
This film was just a diverse cast, and the cast was great all around. And because they all, in my opinion, because they all seem to know exactly what type of film it is so much fun. Um, oh yeah, and Jaimin Hunsu. I was like, oh my god, dude.
Yes. Yes.
I was like, it's unfortunate the way he dies, but it's so hilarious because it comes out of nowhere. Oh my
And
god.
I mean, that's a lot of them. It's like Ian Fleming, or is it Jason Fleming, sorry. Where he's like, yeah, I scared him out of the oven and the stove, and he goes back up the heat thing, and then there's one right behind him, and it's like, well, of course.
Yeah, I think that you just have to go in this film wanting to watch a film that's a lot of fun. And I guess for some people it probably would be scary, but for me, I'm watching it in the theater, and I'm pretty sure that there was very few people when I saw this movie.
Yeah, like I said, going in knowing to expect a lot of camp, it's a lot of fun. If you go in expecting a full-fledged horror movie, you're going to be disappointed, but it is one of those super campy. Like go in expecting The Mummy and you're not going to be disappointed.
I think you are absolutely correct. I think by the time he did The Mummy, Sommers knew the type of movies he wanted to make.
Mhm.
Because there's just the right amount of horror in The Mummy to still make it suspenseful, not scary in my opinion, but suspenseful. But because he also adds action to it, it makes it much more invigorating and entertaining. And that's what he does with all of his films. This film could have, if they played this movie straight, I doubt I
Oh
would
yeah,
like
no.
it as much as I do.
No, and there are the bits of scary and creepy, like how you would get in Indiana Jones, where you get like the guy ripping the heart out of the chest and like the bugs. This also has those bits of creepy and disgusting, just like the Mummy does, where you've got like the scarabs and like the giant sand faces and stuff. So there are like creepy elements, but there's not necessarily full on horror. So it does make it a lot of fun. Like I said, with The Mummy, if you expect the same thing where it's that perfect blend of comedy with bits of horror,
Uh-huh.
you're going to have a good time with this movie.
Yeah, yeah. And this is one of those odd conversations we're having where we're actually going through a lot of the other key elements, which is the special effects. We've gone through the director and we've gone through the actors. But what do you think about the actual monster itself? Do you think it was an effective monster? It was a different monster? Let me know about that.
As long as you, like we said, as long as you don't think about the monster too hard, you're not going to be disappointed because it is fun. I mean, like, giant tentacles coming in from all sections of the ship anywhere that can plow through almost anything. Super creepy. The fact that they've got like their tentacles, but they've also got like mouths at the end that will open up in each face. Also super creepy. If you try and think about the logic behind that and how it gets through the ship, you're gonna have a bad time.
I like these type of movies when they take a little bit from real life and kind of exaggerate it. We did a podcast on The Bay, which was inspired by real
Yes.
creatures too, and I love the fact that they're like I love those type of movies because coming up with an aquatic monster that's just completely original sometimes can backfire and sometimes can't. Will actually be a boon to you. I can't think of many that are actually original creatures, except for underwater, which is like a Lovecraftian fucking creature.
Well, and that's not even original either because that's technically Cthulhu. I mean, there isn't anything super new, but going off of what you're saying, like it's really interesting because the Atoya, which is the creature that they mention in the movie, does drain the victim of bodily fluids and eject the bloody carcasses, but it is super tiny. It's an archaeopterygian worm from Cambrian fossils, and they came from Burgess Shale of British Columbia, deposited 508 million years ago. And there are a few fossils also from China, which works because they're kind of in between. I think they're like closer to China in this movie than anything else.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
it kind of makes sense. But they're average of 8 centimeters in length and a burrower, and they hunt prey and scavenge on dead organisms and also cannibalize each other. But the closer version to this actual creature in the movie is called the bobbit worm, which is mainly in Atlantic oceans, and it burrows into the ocean floor sediment and jumps out and strikes. Um, so that is actually the closer thing. Looking at it, it's very disgusting. It doesn't look like the creature, obviously, but it's kind of got the same similarities with the tentacles. So it's really gross. If you want to look it up, go for it. It is called the bobbit worm, and the origin of the name is also just as gruesome. Part of like a murder case. I think it was murder, otherwise it was self-defense. But either way, it's a fun story to look into.
Oh my god.
But yeah, no, like the Bay, I love when they take real things and over exaggerate.
Yeah, yeah.
So this was done very well, especially with that. Like we said with the VFX, it looks very good. It looks very gross. But it's a fun monster. I almost wish that they didn't show the giant VFX monster at the end because
Mhm.
then you just have the giant tentacles and you never see the full body. But I get where he was going based on the end of the movie.
Yeah, he had to do something big. There's this huge buildup of all these tentacles coming everywhere throughout the entire film, and they do a really good job. Although you kind of have a question on how the monster can go and push against the walls of certain scenes.
Yes.
It's really cool visually, but you kind of okay, how did the thing do that? Okay, we're not going to ask those questions, but it's just it's kind of like one of those things where they have to build up to the big monster at the end, and they probably spent all their money on that. Plus, it's also good to see Treat Williams shoot the damn
Yes.
eye out with a freaking shotgun.
I kept trying to pause it. I kept feeling like somebody's body was in the giant eyeball being like disintegrated, but I couldn't pause it correctly to see if that was true. I didn't know if it was a reflection, if it was somebody's body or what, but I was like, man, that would have been really cool if it was just like one of their guys like, help me. But
Oh God.
that's just me. I also think it's very ironic that you are wearing the shirt you are wearing because I gotta talk about the credit scene.
Okay.
So the end. Trillian and Finnegan both escape on the jet ski and they crash land on this island. They bring back Pantucci because they were like, we can't kill him. He's a fun character. But they crash land on this island. They're like so happy they survived. And then a giant creature's in the forest knocking down trees and a bunch of other stuff. And I was mind blown to find out what this was supposed to be the prequel to. I don't know if you know this, Kevin. Do
I
you?
don't know. I just thought
Oh, it's such a big fan of this movie. So
I
he
don't look into
intended.
the intentions of some certain things like that outside the movie. That's the,
So you're gonna love this. The ending of this movie was supposed to be the lead-in to a King Kong series that he was going to direct, but it wound up in development hell, and that's why he ended up doing The Mummy. But eventually, it became the basis for Peter Jackson's 2005 remake of King Kong.
wow.
So I was like, okay, that perfectly tracks. It's supposed to be one of those like kaiju monsters, which totally makes sense. And now I can see like why he went and did the mummy because it's along the same thing of you want this like super monster that is popular in fiction. But I don't know what I would have liked to see more is his version of King Kong or because if we would not gotten the mummy at that point, but I love Peter Jackson's King Kong.
I think that at that time, if he had been able to do a King Kong, it probably would have been closer to being like Skull Island.
Yes, and
Uh,
that's what it was supposed to be. They were supposed to land on Skull Island.
because I don't see. I would hope that if he had done it, then he wouldn't have tried to do like a remake of the original one.
Yes.
He would try to do something much different, like what Skull Island did, which is what I loved. It wasn't just King Kong; it was a bunch of monsters that the people encounter on the island as well as King Kong, and I like that concept.
Yes, same. And so now you know to add it to your Monsterverse, because it is, I don't want to say it's officially canon, but it is up there.
No, that's interesting. I'll have to take that for the next time I rewatch it again. I'll have to think about that because I just thought it was going to be. I thought it was like some underground creature just burrowing through the island. To be honest with you, I was like, but it would make much more sense if it might be like a King Kong going through the woods because there's a huge section that just starts
Yes.
rattling as it comes down towards the island.
Because I was like, watch them get to the island and they've got like little versions of this squid creature, but somehow they've adapted to land. And then I looked it up and it was like, oh, it's the prequel to King Kong. And I was like, okay, that makes a lot more sense with most of this movie. You've got the human on human violence, and realistically, the monster's just trying to live his life and eat. So I get it.
Oh, come on, imagine that. A King Kong movie with Treat Williams and
Oh
Famke
my
Janssen.
God. Can you imagine Trillian, or what's her name? Famke Johnson, just like as the main character, like being stuck in his arms as he climbs the tower? I mean, like, come on. It would be great.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. I don't know if I could imagine that. I'm going to stick with my original intentions with this and just think of it as a non King Kong film and just a random monster. I do like the idea that he was developing something else on the lines after this, though. But I would not be surprised if it had to do with rights issues as well. Um,
I don't think it had to do with rights. I think it was just them trying, it wasn't quite the effects that they were looking for. Because if you think about the effects with this movie and other movies at that time, if he immediately went and did that, it would have been very difficult to do hair for a giant
oh, yeah, yeah.
ape. So I think they were more waiting till the right effects, which Peter Jackson did get very well, but he was also post Lord of the Rings at that time.
Yeah, yeah. I know that with CGI when Disney did or Pixar did Monsters Inc. And they got a lot of the algorithm for hair for all for that movie, which from my understanding, a lot of people copied after Monsters Inc. because the hair was done so well.
Yes, and there was, I was trying to remember, there was another animated movie I've watched recently where they actually got the correct animation for hair by putting it as grass on their head because they could not get it to animate as hair correctly, and the closest they could get was grass.
Yeah, and you know, animated films. especially Pixar, has done a tremendous amount of work on CGI and
Yes.
animation in terms of their algorithms and their techniques that they perfect over
Yes.
time.
100%.
More so than the standard Disney films, which I rarely watch. But I have seen most of the Pixar films, which is, unfortunately, like I said, this movie came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the CGI just wasn't there quite yet.
Well, and it depended on what you were doing because they had they did Jurassic Park, which has some really great CGI. And then you've got Casper, which came out like 2 years before this, but given those are completely different creatures. But yeah, it was like you got like the B or C team to do the FX on this for video instead of like the A team, because I mean they did have a bunch of other stuff going on at that time that it's like, okay, they put the A+ people with Spielberg and everything else so they could finish those.
Oh jeez, of course, because you got to remember with Jurassic Park, after Spielberg saw what the CGI people could do, he gave them a lot more work to do.
Yes.
Oh my God. So I'm trying to think of anything else we need to discuss regarding Deep Rising, other than the fact that one of the reasons why I love the film so much is because and if everyone remembers, we did a month on aquatic horror films. And so I have a deep appreciation for that genre, despite there being very few people who have a deep appreciation as myself. I know that there's a lot of people out there who probably have seen the plethora of shark movies and alligator and crocodile movies, and maybe even the piranha movies. But the other aquatic monsters never get nearly as much appreciation or love as those. Most of the time, they make very little money at the box office. We all know there's 1,000 box office bombs compared to the one Jaws out there or the Meg. But we do hope that people can go back and watch these films and later appreciate them. And, people like Stephen Sommers will showcase how much love he has for the genre itself. Are there any other thoughts that you have about this movie, Panazzo?
I don't think so. I think we've talked about, for the most part, most of it. Instead of going into like graphic detail of every little thing, but like I said, it's a fun movie. Expect camp, and you're not going to be disappointed.
Well, the reason, and this goes back to one of the reasons why I don't always. There are some movies I believe that we have to go through and do all the whole plot thing for everyone because we don't think that they've seen it. But this film right here is a very simple plot, which is not to the detriment of the film. It actually helps the film because you, as an audience member, can sit back, relax, and go for the same adventure as everyone else. Going to too much of the plot may just ruin the movie for you. You just need to sit back and enjoy the ride, especially, the jet ski at the end through a cruise ship. I mean, what other film other than Speed 2 are you going to get some random speedboat chase in your movie? Yeah, see, none of y'all want to remember Speed 2 either. I know. But with that, we're going to rate the movie, and I will already preface this with being that it's going to be a little biased on my part, so you can take that with a grain of salt. But go ahead and re-rate the movies between 1 and 5 stars, 1 being horrible, 5 being amazing. Where on the spectrum would you put Deep Rising?
So I have to give it 2 different ratings. Scary scale, it's maybe a 2 or a 3. Entertainment value, definitely a 4. So, like I said, don't expect like pure horror, but it is 100% campy horror. If you like The Mummy, you're gonna like this.
So that's actually a good point to make. A scary scale, because in my opinion, I have never watched a Stephen Sommers film ever thinking they're scary. I always think that they are a blend of horror, action, and comedy. And when he gets it right, it works extremely well. And I would probably say his scariest movie would probably be Odd Thomas, really.
Yes.
But for the most part, if you've seen The Mummy, and I'm pretty sure a lot, if not everyone, has seen the Brendan Fraser Mummy.
Yes.
That popular. or the second one. That's what you're getting when you watch this aquatic horror movie, and I would even go so far as say aquatic action movie.
Yes.
It's not scary, but it's so goddamn much fun. And so my opinion is a little biased because I give it like a 4.5, not because it's cinematically great. We've all just talked about some of the problems with the movie, but there is this list of great guilty pleasure movies that every one of us love to watch despite its flaws. And sometimes we have to remember that because those are the movies that people tend to remember and tell their friends about, and they get cult audiences with. I believe there's a huge cult audience for Deep Rising simply because Stephen Sommers went off to do the freaking Mummy. I don't think if he had not done the Mummy, I don't think anyone would even bother with the movie because it didn't do well at the box office. And if he had changed his trajectory as a director, I don't think people would have remembered this movie nearly as well or had seen it. But I believe that I've heard a lot of people have seen this movie and they all have your kind of opinion. It's campy as hell, but fun. That's pretty much what everyone tells me. But at least they've seen it. So that's why I give it a 4.5. I probably watch this at least once every other year. I know. You're looking at me strangely. That means I've probably seen it about 20 times.
Kevin, those are rookie numbers. When I have a comfort movie, I watch it like every other month.
Yeah, but that's not me anymore. That's not me. I do film festivals and stuff. I don't have time to rewatch movies anymore in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, I've had to curb my rewatching thing. If I'm still rewatching a movie after in the last 10 years, at least 2 to 3 times, then that's saying a lot. And I've probably seen this movie about 4 or 5 times. I'm still trying to get my wife to watch this movie. I keep telling her, this is so much fun, you have to watch, because she's never seen it. She looks at the trailer and thought it was scary. I was like, no,
not at all.
Nah. So I haven't convinced her yet, but I will convince her one day. She knows it too. But with that, I want to thank you, Panazzo, for joining me on this conversation in horror on Deep Rising from director Stephen Sommers. From everyone here at Something Wicked Entertainment, I wish everyone out there, please go see this movie if you have never seen it, or go see it again if you want to reevaluate it. Make sure to go out and check out the rest of our episodes, our previous episodes, and like, subscribe, follow, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and all the other ones out there. Also, make sure to check out our sister podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which is about comic books, manga, and graphic novels. That is on our Patreon exclusive site only. And from everyone here at Something Wicked Entertainment, we want you to keep... I was about to say something really witty, but I didn't have anything witty about, keep going on vacation on those cruise lines or something like that.
I mean, you can go with their tagline for this: full scream ahead.
Full scream ahead. Thank you, Panazzo. Everyone have a pleasant day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.